How have you made a rude person's day worse? When I was working a TTY job in my younger days, a customer was upset that he had to wait in line like everyone else before being able to make his purchase. He actually said, "Do you know who I am? I own hotels." To which I replied, "Well sir, I'm sorry, but this isn't Monopoly. This is Krispy Kreme." He was not pleased. Went to go get my exhaust fixed. No big deal, pothole poked a hole in it. When I went to go pick up the car a couple hours later, I am treated to a woman screaming at the guy behind the counter she's positively foaming because she has been waiting nearly 30 minutes for her car to be fixed. She even goes so far as to call the guy an insignificant lazy immigrant. Guy looks at her, looks at me, throws me my keys, "Here you go. Your Magnum's ready, no charge." Looks her directly in the eyes. "Looks like it's going to be more expensive than we originally thought. Would you like us to call you a cab?" I returned shortly afterwards with pizza for the shop. TLDR. FCK bitches. I watched a lazy shopper park their grocery cart right behind another person's car instead of putting it in the cart return. I got out of my car, ran up and moved the cart and put it behind her car. I then ran off and watched her have to get back out of her car since she couldn't back out, and then finally proceed to put up her cart the right way. I felt like a champion of the people. I was at a Walmart and a lady got in her car, rolled down her window and started throwing papers out. I walked up to her car and picked up the paper and put it under her windshield wiper and walked away as I was riddled with curses. When people are rude to me in the drive-thru, I bend their straw so it gets a crack in it. So later on, about halfway through their drink, their straw stops working. HA. Guy got out of his car to express some road rage to me. I just got out of my truck, walked past him, pushed the lock button on his door, closed it, walked past him again, his mouth hanging open this time, got back in my truck and drove off. He seemed to be frozen with confusion. I volunteer at my university. Safe walks and all that jazz. We are required to report suspicious and illegal activity. Witnessed a woman driving a Mercedes-Benz across a lawn to bypass the parking gate, tearing up this gorgeous lawn. Being an ex-landscaper, and mad at some rich bitch being too cheap for parking. I am not amused. So we reported it to the parking authority. They show up while the chick is still getting crap out of her trunk, box her in, and start writing a ticket. She ended up driving away, over a curb, peeling her bumper off in the process. Made me kinda happy inside. Why would she drive away to get out of a ticket? They've got your license plate, so you've got your ticket. The parking authority aren't going to go on a high-speed chase with you and their golf cart. At the end of a long commute home, after a hard week, I went to a Miller's Cookies store just before closing time. As I walked up to the counter, not 5 feet from it, some guy ran from behind me and tried to cut in front of me. The girl working there insisted I was first. Thank you. Outraged at what that guy tried to do, and noticing there was not much cookies left, I said, "Hi. I'll take absolutely everything you have." Cost me close to $60, but it was so worth it. I work in customer service and have no shortage of arsehole customers. I often find that a nice big smile and a "have a nice day" at the end of an insulting customer's rant makes them angrier than any insult I could have thrown back at them. When people are rude to me at my fast food job, I practically overflow their cup with ice. I'm a little passive aggressive. I also do this. If they can get the straw in the cup without physically forcing it into the ice, I didn't give them enough. I knew a girl that had a woman who was very rude multiple times demanding light ice. Apparently light ice wasn't good enough for her and she threw the cup at the cashier, berating her for being such an idiot she can't even get something as simple as light ice right. She made a new cup, put 4 ice cubes in it, and pressed a button to fill for the appropriately sized cup, leaving about 1/3 of the glass empty. Then said sorry. The machine still filled the cup the same amount. regardless of how much ice. Manager backed her up. Don't FCK with the people that handle your food. Trashy. Jerry Springer guest looking young lady at Toys R Us on Black Friday tried to cut in the massive 90-minute line and threw a fit when she was told to go to the end of the line. She yelled at the employees and threw her products into the face of the security guards as she was told to leave. I started a slow clap. To which she replied, shrieking, FCK y'all. I love that the slow clap was all you had to do in this situation to make her day worse. Brilliant. Some douchebag in a Humvee decided to park at a handicap spot at a Kroger. I was young at the time and out riding with my dad, a repo man, in a repo truck. He towed the Humvee to a parking spot on the opposite side of the parking lot. We waited till the owner came out and looked around in disbelief. She thought someone stole her car. My dad drove up to her, rolled down the window and said, "Are you okay, miss?" Woman said, "My car was stolen." My dad replied, "Well, maybe you shouldn't have parked it in a handicap spot," and drove off. I work in a university computer lab. In all of the lab rooms we have it clearly posted no food, no drinks. I've repeatedly told a particular group that is in the journalism program to at least clean up their mess in the lab room designated for their class only. They never do and I end up cleaning the mess. The other night I go to lock up that particular lab room and they have left a mess and Fox News running on the TV in there. Just went ahead and put a channel lock with passcode on it the night before election day. By watching their face after telling them may the rest of the day be as pleasant as you are. Reported a hit and run today. That's pretty rude. And I'm sure they won't enjoy the call from the police. Not me, but when I was working at a car dealership we had a bunch of cars get their wheels stolen one night. A police officer was in writing a report and a lady came in screaming that the cop was blocking her from getting to the service drive-thru. She was screaming at the top of her lungs, creating a huge scene. The cop calmly walks out and moves his car, comes back in and finishes his report. Then he walks back out and drives his car to the end of the street and parks. The lady comes out and gets in her car and leaves. He pulls her over for having her wipers on without her headlights on. Her wipers on without her headlights on. This is illegal. I work for parking services at a decent sized university. I don't write tickets. I just man the front desk, answer questions, and enter permits and changes into our database. We get yelled cussed at it. So it's nothing new. But this bitch comes in raising hell over some tickets she rightfully got. She was being so ignorant and rude about the whole situation. But I politely look up her account to see if I can find any errors or anything that might help her. She is constantly abusing me the whole time I'm trying to see what I can do for her. Well, look here. These $100 is of tickets you're complaining about aren't being linked to your account for some reason. I don't tell her this, but I do ask to see her last ticket, so I can check if everything is right. Little does she know. With the info I got from the ticket, I transferred all of those tickets she got onto her account. If she would have been nice about the whole thing, she would have probably gotten away without ever having to pay those. Now she has a few $100 worth of tickets. I think I actually made a rude person's day better once. I was at a pub and he was berating the waitress about how his burger had something on it that he requested left off or something. Kinda being real mean. So I turned around and asked him if that was really necessary. And to my surprise he apologized to the waitress. Told her how things hadn't been going right. But that's no excuse for his actions, yada yada yada. Once she left to fix his order, I asked him if he wanted to vent. He went on for about 3 minutes just ranting, and afterwards he thanked me, said it felt good to just rant a bit and enjoyed his meal. But everyone who acts like an ass once is an ass all the time. People have bad days and sometimes they take it out on others. It's not cool. But I tend to wait to judge someone until I have at least a few interactions with them. In France, I speak Dutch-ish. So, I was at a pretty multicultural event doing some volunteer work and I was with a buddy. We ran across 2 Dutch girls and said hey. Started chatting and whatnot. Anyway, my buddy decided he liked one of these girls and started making his move. Nice and slow and all that. She started talking to her friend in Dutch about how she would let him keep crawling after her. About how it would be funny to keep his attention all night and lose him later. Anyway, she said to her friend she was going to take him dancing, and I said in Dutch, I like dancing. Why don't you take me instead of being a FCK face to my friend? Apostrophe. Look on her face was priceless. My friend and I left and had a great evening. TL. DR. Caught Dutch bitch red-handed trying to lead my friend on. Skipped into sunset like yeah. I work for a rental car company, and if you call me up at the end of the day demanding that I deliver you a car and swearing at me, you will be left stranded on the side of the road and I will not lose even a little sleep about it. However, if I'm moments from closing and you're nice and polite, I will go out of my way to help you and stay after we close if I have to. But being an arsehole pays dividends, children. Anytime someone rude comes to the movie theater and orders popcorn, I always give them a shitty ton of kernels. So if you have a shitty ton of kernels in your popcorn, be nicer. Edit. Apparently you like the kernels. A woman in her mid-50s cut in front of my daughter, 2 years old, and I in line at Panera. I was getting her a cookie and was in a hurry as I was dealing with a 2-year-old. I said, what is wrong with you? How are 70 years old and you still don't know how a line works? She was silent. The best part of this is the subtle jab at her age. That she'll take to heart. I work at a retail location that does returns strictly only with tags on the clothes. There was one customer who was exceptionally rude to our staff. She called both women working dumb bitches, which pissed me off. She came up to the register telling me she'll probably return all the things she's buying and is just trying to impress her friends. So I took all the tags off the clothes when I was bagging everything. I bettered the world that day. I was at a club years ago when the DJ played a song I liked. It wasn't a big club, so I walked over and asked who it was. He just shook his head no and waved at me to go away. Fast forward a couple of days later and this same guy walks into the record shop I worked in. I'm playing some music in the store and he walks up and asks who it is. I just shook my head and waved him off. Only then did he realize who I was and what had happened. It was awesome. Note: this guy never shopped in the store, so it wasn't like I was ignoring a regular. My sister and I worked for Circuit City. There was an angry customer she was dealing with who said that a woman didn't know what she was talking about. She needed to get her manager. She got her manager Laurie. He said, no, a woman can't help me, let me speak to your manager. She got her manager Ruth Ann. He was so mad at this point and said, don't any f***ing men work at this store. I'm listening to this, so I walk out and say in my most feminine voice possible, hello sir, can I help you? I worked at Favor shoe store. We took back everything, no matter what. A stupid policy. But then again, Favor isn't in business anymore. One day a woman walks in during communion season, returning a pair of boys' dress shoes she bought 3 days earlier. The kid must have played football in them. They were literally covered in mud, grease, and scuff marks. This was the one person I refused a refund. She went batshit on me, yelling, screaming, demanding a manager. So my manager comes up behind me, and I just know he's going to give this woman her money. And I know she's gonna smirk at me as she exits the store. I actually braced for it. Instead, Mike, my manager, walks up, takes a look at the shoes, and tells the woman no. She goes bananas, telling him my son wore these shoes once at his communion, and they fell apart like this? To which Mike calmly says, Mom, it looks like your son wore these shoes to the Normandy invasion. I work at a movie theater and had a woman storm in with her husband late for her movie and looking very rushed. She immediately skips by the 5 people in line to get tickets and slams the 2 ticket coupons she had down in front of me and informs me that she's in a rush and to make this quick and ignores everybody waiting behind her. I then, to her very clear displeasure, for her to go to the back of the line. By the time she gets to the front, she's yelling at me for making her miss the beginning of her movie. She was seeing a new movie and the passes technically don't work on them. I can easily make it work, but she was a bitch, so I made her pay for her tickets. It was simple. Came out of the supermarket one day to find that someone hit my car. Stranger told me the person who hit my car got out, looked at the damage, and parked at the other end of the lot. I went to where the car was parked and confirmed, paint matched, it was the car that hit mine. Flattened all 4 tires and left a note on their windshield telling them to have a nice day. I was working customer service for a crappy cable company, and a really pissed off customer called in. The guy was furious about something, to the point he wouldn't even let me get a word in. He was already in full on rage guy mode and went on a good 3 or 4 minutes tirade of complaints about the company, myself, and the service. He finally let up by asking me if I knew what his definition of a moron was, in keeping with company policy requiring me to verify ownership of the account. I responded by asking the customer what his name was. Op. You are glorious. This guy walks up to my work and asks, "Hey, kid, where the FCK is Voodoo Donuts?" I'm 27. He swore in front of a child nearby and was loudly smacking his gum. Instead of sending him to Voodoo Donuts, which was only a few blocks away, I gave him directions that would lead him under the Burnside Bridge where the homeless, the prostitutes and the drug addicts congregated. I gave him directions that would lead him under the Burnside Bridge where the homeless, the prostitutes and the drug addicts congregated. I bet they glazed his donut. Waiting in line to vote today, I stood next to an Asian man and we engaged in a conversation about the excitement surrounding this presidential election. He struck me as a very well-educated person with interesting insights about this election season. When it was his turn at the registration desk, the woman there asked him if he spoke English, and if he did, would she be able to understand him? I spoke up and said that he spoke English a whole lot better than she did and wasn't anywhere near as rude as she is. OP. If you're not from New York City, and if you do not currently live in New York City, please allow me, by the powers vested in me by the MTA and the Borough of Manhattan, to declare you honorary New Yorker with all the privileges and responsibilities such position entails. Feel free to come to our great city anytime, and just be yourself. When I was in middle school, I had a friend surely on the autism spectrum. Admittedly, she was difficult to have around, but she was, still is, a sweet girl. Obviously, though, 7th grade jackass guys don't let difficulties of genetics get in the way of doling out tea. So the head asshole, who was this fat, completely crowled of a kid, was being a dick to her right in front of me and a few other people. 13 was about the start of my rage issues. So naturally, I punched that motherfucker in the stomach. He got the wind knocked out of him a little, but I didn't actually hurt him. It was the humiliation of getting bested by a girl that made it good. At a pedestrian crossing on a major road in one of the wealthiest parts of town, the little man goes green for me to cross. However, I see one of those 4WD vehicles that has never been off-road and I can tell the driver isn't going to stop. Sure enough, he runs the red and also he can turn into the 7-Eleven 50 meters beyond the crossing. He would have happily run me down just to get to the convenience store a few seconds earlier. He gets out of his car with his wife and several kids. I walk up to him, tell him he almost killed me. He is selfish and a few other colorful tidbits too. He is speechless throughout. I finish up by pointing to his kids and saying, "Now explain to your kids why you've just been abused in this manner," and head on my way. You sound like you're from London. I'm a barista. If you're rude to me or to my other customers, you'll get a decaf drink.